Lucci, Eddie, Ben. Today we are talking about what it means to be a Scrum Master, but by the handbook definition, what have we done? Everyone on this call, what have we done that you absolutely would never, ever, 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 ever find in a Scrum handbook? And that you might be embarrassed to say out loud in a room full of other Agile practitioners, or maybe you'd be very proud that you've done it. So this is what you would never find in a Scrum handbook that you have done, and that maybe should be added.
I mentor a lot of Scrum Masters. And one of the things I tell them is when you're the Scrum Master for a team, they're your team. Your job is to build trust, to build morale, to get results. And the way you go about doing that, you can do anything you want, as long as you're being responsible and you think that it makes sense. The people who hire you probably don't really know what Agile is, and they don't know what a Scrum Master's role is. I've told people all kinds of goofy things are, well, what? This is just how we do Agile. I had teams come in and to instill the discipline of making to the daily stand-up on time. I charged them $1 a minute for being late. They bought into it. Like, well, this is how we're going to learn discipline. And at the end of the week, depending on how much money we've accumulated, we'll either go out for drinks and get pizza.
Love that idea. I once recommended, and Leor, I think this is actually one of your ideas because I was struggling with getting people to stand up on time. And I was at a company that was a little bit of a stiff culture. I proposed that if you're late, you have to sing either the ABCs or happy birthday. And oh my gosh, the anxiety that I saw in people's faces. So I quickly said, just kidding, we don't have to do that. Because I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable, but I did try out that kind of something similar. But something that did work with that team really well was I started something called Fun Fridays, where every Friday we highlighted a team member and they would have 5 minutes to talk about stuff outside of work, what their interests were, show pictures of their family, their friends, whatever it was that they did outside of work. And that's something that I absolutely think should be in a Scrum handbook, of just getting to know people at a people level and not just behind Slack screens and Zooms, and actually talking to each other like we might know each other.
I've actually also threatened teams with singing songs or writing poems before. For me, it wasn't coming late to dailies. It was with estimation, right? So people weren't getting the idea of, I'm committing to doing this in a sprint. You're taking like a gamble, you know what I mean? And we were really caught up in the whole, it didn't work because of this, or there was this dependency or that dependency. So I told them, look, if I'm going to ask you right now, is it going to get finished or not? If you lose, you have to sing a song for us. That made them really think about, okay, wait, hold on. How secure am I about betting on this? What is my confidence level? You know what I mean? Because if you didn't have any stakes on it, there was no like real test of how confident they are. They weren't really sitting back and thinking, am I really feeling good about this? And that's how I got that, 80, 90% confidence level. And once we started doing that, that's when the sprint planning started looking better. That's when we started closing down a lot more of what we were doing, not because the team was working harder, but because they were really, really careful, because they had some motivation. I would have loved to hear one of the poems they read or something, but we never got there, unfortunately.
I have, it's kind of a ask for forgiveness rather than for permission type story. So I've encouraged teams to kind of think outside the box a little bit. We formed a team, and this was in Jersey City, and we formed a team, and the members of that team were spread out across many like desks, like meters and meters away from each other. And they told me they couldn't move desks because that was a unionized thing. They had to get someone in to move things around, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, come on, guys, like, let's just do it. Like, let's just move these desks around, like trade places with a person for a day. Who knows, who cares, whatever. And they did, and they moved things around. And guess what? The world didn't end. So getting people to think, to test some of the rules that are less meaningful, and to kind of push the boundaries of what they think is possible, and that's good fun as well.
Ben, for a topic you would be obviously our expert on, I think retrospectives are the place where we can probably get most of this. If I think of most of the things I've done that have been different, it's by waking up the day before retro and going, okay, what am I cooking up today? I once had a retro where I said, the only thing we're going to do today is we're going to go into pairs and you're going to say two things you appreciate about the other person in the team. One about the way they work and what they do in their work life, and one just about the way, something unrelated or whatever. And the atmosphere totally changed, right? And of course, at the start, it's like you come into retro sometimes and you have to start with, okay, bear with me, guys, hear me out, give it a shot. Do you think that the retrospective is kind of almost like a playground for a scrum master that's not being used, like an empty swing set that's just standing there that most scrum masters should be kind of jumping on?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, have some fun with it. Like I was turned on to an idea that a few business leaders use, which is kill a stupid rule. And what rules could you kill? Like if you're living in an organization and there's a rule there that you think is stupid, like let's put it forward. Let's see how we can kill it. Why are we doing it? If no one can tell me why we're doing this rule, let's kill it and let's make our lives a bit better. So I think that's one example of having fun with it. But I think there's endless possibilities. Like if you had unlimited money to change the way you worked, what would you change first? Like really setting out these fanciful ideas as part of a retrospective and seeing how you can open up beyond what did we do not very well in the last 2 weeks and what are we going to do better in the next 2 weeks. I think that you can have some real fun as a scrum master and real fun as a team, I think.
I love the kill a stupid rule idea. One of the things I always talk about is you can make a business case for anything. I mentioned to you guys before, I was working with a team and they were complaining during the retro that it was difficult for them to get to work on time. They were really tired. A lot of people were late. Sometimes there were issues with the stand-up. And I said, why don't we try and shift from 9 to 5 to 10 to 6? They're like, no way, that's impossible. That's against company policy. That's et cetera, et cetera. And I went to their boss and I said, I would like to try to run this team from 10 to 6 instead of 9 to 5. He said, absolutely not. I said, I'm going to make a bet with you. If you let me do this for 2 months, they're going to boost their throughput by 30%. And he said, no way. All right, let's do it. And they did. They boosted by more than 30%.
Great. Eddie, I was going to say the same as you. What we do is like an appreciation round when that everybody is listening, and you need to appreciate something of another person. Everyone has to do that. That is very powerful, and people feel very good, and that brings like a bond, a commitment. So if somebody appreciated something that you did, then the next time, like you're going to do it, no, because it adds value. And at the same time, I was thinking if teams are working, some at home, some in the office, like one day meeting together and doing maybe a disruptive activity that also helps to build like team building and meet each other. Sometimes by meeting like, I don't know, 2 hours, that it's magic and that's it. Then when you're going to do something or write an email, the distance disappeared. We do disruptive activities like, I don't know if you know the Wim Hof method, but doing that, or maybe go out for a drinks. It doesn't have to be so IG maybe, but thinking creatively about different activities that brings the team together and that there are dialogues between them is very powerful.
Yeah, it's the whole killing bad rules thing. It's really important to acknowledge that a lot of the rules that are holding us back are things we might only subversively realize as well. And there's so many unwritten rules of like solemnity and stuff within workplaces that you have to teach people it's okay to tell your teammates something you appreciate about them. Like people are hesitant towards it because they're like there's some reason and there's no rule, but they believe there's a rule, so sometimes you have to kind of break through there as well, right?
Yeah, and just before we wrap up, I just wanted to give kind of credit to the kill the stupid rule thing. So the author of the book where at least I learned this was Lisa Bedell, and she wrote a couple of books, Kill the Company and Why Simple Wins. And you can pick up her talks on YouTube and TED, and but really inspiring kind of talk about kill the stupid rules. And that something that I think we probably all know, but putting it into a nice catchy phrase kind of really, brought it forward in my mind as something to do more recently.
This has been so awesome. I'm just going to end with one thing that I've done recently that a lot of people thought I was crazy for doing. I was running an exercise in a brainstorm for a team, and we were able to all be together in a room. And instead of using any digital tool, I had Post-it notes. It was very old school. And it was so funny. As they entered the room, they thought they were going to be all on their laptops in the same room together. But when I said, no, we're going to use Post-it notes, it looked like they were looking at Post-its for the first time and didn't understand. And then I had them start writing down ideas on their Post-it notes. And then I had to guide them to the board to say, okay, now you're going to put them on the board. And they're like, oh, and like, it took them a second to get up from their seats, to walk over to the board, to put them on the wall, because we don't do that ever. We don't ever use physical tools anymore in the brainstorming sessions that we do. Like we used to way back in the day, we used to only use Post-its on a board and move those around. And so I find that doing something that gets us outside of our comfort zone is also a great exercise for a team, because everyone's a little unsure and no one really knows what's going on. But as soon as they start using their mind in that different way, I think the ideas start to change and they start to use a different part of their brain where it won't be the same if they were just in front of their computers the whole time. There's something to getting up and physically writing something down, putting it on the board together, and then moving those around as a team together. It was like a very bonding experience that I'm glad I was part of. But they thought I was crazy at first. They thought we'd use Miro or Confluence or some tool in a computer, but we're all together. So why should we be our faces in a laptop when we could actually interact? So that was pretty cool. Any last thoughts?
I'll just throw in my 2 cents again. I always used to like to say Agile is like arts and crafts for adults.
When we used Post-it notes.
Well, yeah, back in the day, it was like kindergarten arts and crafts for adults. We've got markers and we're drawing things.
It was so colorful. I think we should bring back Post-it notes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'll be a different video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave us comments below. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think? And yeah, subscribe to our channel because we have more videos.